Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Zem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening everyone. So today is 19th, Friday the 19th of February 2021, and this is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here with you tonight. Hello Anish, hello Margaret, hello Pratibha, hi everyone, those who are listening today. I hope that you're all having a good fun. And today, as I said yesterday, that is the quarter moon and a Buddhist holiday. Normally Buddhists will be observing 8 precepts and listening to talks and spend time in the temples. But unfortunately, due to this COVID-19, they are observing silas, precepts, from home. And I also requested, if possible, you can observe as well at home. So making your home as a monastery. Hello Yvonne. Yeah. So today at the center also we're busy, and this morning I was teaching, and then at 9 o'clock Ajahn Pita was leading for the service with the chanting and the talk, and we had a lunch for the fish and chips for the maybe long time. Yeah, that's our fish and chips lunch time today. But that was a little oily. It troubles me a little bit. But however, it was lunch. So thank you. Right, today I will be reading few suttas, few discourses, and discussing on that, and then see that how many suttas or discourses we can cover today. So the first discourse is on the virtue. It's called a Sila Sutta. Sila Sutta. And this verse, again, this is not about the Buddha, it's about the Buddha's attendants. And the story starts saying, "Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Venerable Ananda and the Venerable Buddha were dwelling at a Pataliputta in the Cox Park." And here again the sutta is retold by the Ananda, who was the attendants of the Buddha, at the Pataliputta in the Cox Park. Pataliputta current is known as Patna. It was the capital city of Magadha during the time of the Buddha. And this Pataliputta, initially its capital city was Rajagaha, under the leadership or kingship of King Bimbisara. And later, King Ajatasattu took over the throne, and then later he wanted to move his Rajagaha capital city to nearer the river. So that's how he established this Pataliputta as the capital city, and current day known as Patna in India. And before this capital city, Patna, was established when one of the chief ministers of the King Ajatasattu was surveying the place. During that time, Buddha was around nearby, and having heard that this minister is surveying the city so that to transform or establish a new capital city, then Buddha said to the Bhikkhu Sangha, Buddha said to the people that this Pataliputta, or the current day Patna, would be is a good choice for establishment of the capital city, and it will prosper in the future, and which again it was become a harbor for so many centuries and become a very important city for the business purposes. And that was the Patala city. And Cox's Park here, and then during the Pataliputta, during the King Ajatasatru's time, or during the Buddha's time, the King Ajatasattu, or the symbol of the country, was the peacock. And that's how this was known as Cox's Park. Then in the evening, the Venerable Buddha emerged from seclusion, approached the Venerable Ananda and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and said to the Venerable Ananda. So again, in the Buddhist tradition or monastic tradition, you are always encouraged to have the secluded moments every day. Like after the lunch, you should be studying or practicing meditation for about 3 to 4 hours, and then emerge from that secluded abode and will come and talk to one another. And this has happened to the king, the Venerable Bhatia. And then after exchange greetings with Ananda, and the Bhatia asks, and here I will have a few questions to ask, and I'm gonna keep an eye, and I will be asking you questions, and I hope that you will be replying along with that. Okay. So the Bhatia asks to the Ananda, saying, "Friend, as to the wholesome virtue spoken of by the Blessed One, what is the purpose for which they were spoken of by him?" Now virtue, is sila, according to the Buddhist terminology, called sila, or the virtuous, wholesome virtue. And what is the purpose of a practice of a wholesome virtue? That's the question asked by the Buddha, Venerable Buddha. And now my question would be, there are 4 different types of silas known as wholesome virtues. 4 different types of virtues, wholesome virtues, known as Parisuddhisila. And number 1 is Patimokkha Samvara, is practicing in line with the Patimokkha rules. And this is mostly to the venerable monks that they should. But again, this is not only the venerable monks, but also for the lay disciples too. Now, when I say Patimokkha Samvara Sila, now I want to ask you that how many rules are there for the bhikkhus, the monks? How many rules are there for nuns? And how many rules are there for lay followers or householders? Now I wait for your response. So Patimokkha Samvara. That means to practice in accordance with the rules and the regulations that the Buddha had laid down, and avoid any other activities that Buddha had avoided. Almost there, Margaret. 127 rules for the monks. So it's supposed to be 227 monks. 227 rules. That's right, Anis, you're right. 227 for the monks. Yvonne is just guessing. 231, 30. What about the nuns one? Okay, what about the nuns' precepts? How many rules that the nuns have? Called bhikkhuni, in Buddhist terminology called bhikkhuni. So how many rules? How many rules are there for the nuns? And then how many rules are there for the followers or the householders? Anish said there are 337 rules. Almost there, little bit more. You said little bit more. Yvonne is saying that 335, 229. Okay, now I can give you, it is between 300, 310 and 315, in between two, okay? So 311 is the nun's rule. Okay? So there are 311 rules for the nuns, and that is known as patimokkha. What about the householders' rules? How many rules? No, Anish, there are 311 rules for the nuns. What about the householders? How many rules are there for householders? Okay. So this is the patimokkha samvara sila, called restrain in accordance with the teachings or the rules that had laid down by the Buddha, is known as a patimokkha samvara sila. And then there is two aspects. One is to practice, and the second is to avoid. And to practice is in accordance with the as the Buddha laid down, and avoid is anything that is not said by the Buddha. And here, as we have said, the bhikkhus or the monks' rules, there are 227, and the nuns, there are 311 rules for them. And then for the householders, Margaret and Anish both write 5 and 8. But in general, 5 precepts are known as the basic rule, and whereas the 8 precepts is optional whenever there is the holy days, or when you are in the retreats, on the retreats, you are encouraged to practice 8 precepts just to raise above the normal living standard. Because when you are observing 8 precepts, you are requested to not have any sexual intercourse even with your partner, and not using any jewelries and any makeups, and just to see the natural state of human existence. And so that's why these are the 4 different, and there are 3 categories, and practicing in accordance with these, known as the restrain in accordance with the practice, and avoid as the Buddha laid down. So that is the patimokkha samvara. This is the first virtue, wholesome virtue. And the second one is called indriya samvara, and that means restrain all the senses. Now, how many senses are there? How many senses are there, and what are they? So I will be waiting for your response. I will be waiting for your response, that how many senses are there and what are they. So this is the second virtue, wholesome virtue, that is known as indriya samvara. So restrain or control your senses. Right? Margaret say 4 and Yvonne say 6. Now, what are they? If that's 4, what are they? If that's 6, what are they? Or senses. Okay? Emma 4, 5, 6. Okay? So what are they? What are the 5? I smell, taste, feel. Okay? And that's 4. You said 6, Yvonne, but you wrote only 4. Okay, so that's the second wholesome virtue, is the indriya samvara, restrain the senses. Eye, ear, tongue, body. 4. No, okay. Yvonne said no, okay. Eye, ear, tongue, body. Okay, Margaret said 4, that's right. So there are 6 senses, not 4, not 5, but 6 senses. Yvonne was right, but she doesn't remember all the 6 senses. Okay, I think I have to give you all the marks, credits, also merits on your answers. Okay. So the Indriya Samvara is senses. There are 6 senses: touch, taste, hearing, eyes, smell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, Emma says 5, so there's a 5. Okay. So there are 6 senses. Okay, and now Emma, we have to add one more, which is from Yvonne, is consciousness. And the last one is the mind. That's right. Anish replied, the mind, and that is the one. So that's the 6 senses, and that's again this touch, taste, hearing, eyes, and smell. That's a combination of both internal and external senses, but we have to see only internal senses, and that is eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. That is the 6 senses. Okay? So eye, ear, nose, tongue, and this body, and then the mind. So this is known as the 6 senses. But in a Western philosophy, when we talk about the senses, we only talk about the 5 senses. It doesn't count the mind senses or the consciousness. Okay? Only eye, ear, nose, tongue, and a body, known as the senses. But in a Buddhist philosophy, including mind is a sense. And so the second wholesome virtue, according to the Buddha's advice, is to restrain your senses. Okay? And here, the reason behind the restraining is that when we see, eye sees an object, we define it like and dislike. Ear hears the sound and we like and dislike. Similarly, all other senses, we always form, we always define, and we always perceive into one or another. And as a result of that, under the influence of our greed, hatred, and delusion, as soon as it comes to contact with the object, we engage and we decide and become influenced with it. And that's how we become a bias. We cannot make right decisions. So that's why the practice of restraining is all the senses basically means you're becoming mindful of your every action, everything that you perceive, whether that is by hearing, whether that is by seeing, whether that is by smelling, or whether that is by taking or contact, or even the thinking. So it's called restrain your senses is the second virtue. And there is a beautiful gatha, a beautiful verse in the Dhammapada. Chakkuna samvaro sadhu sadhu sotena samvaro khanena samvaro sadhu sadhu, and so on. Okay, and that is basically restrain your eyes, restrain your nose, restrain your ears, and so on. And then further on, restrain your physical action. Kayena samvaro sadhu, vachaya samvaro sadhu. And then restrain your speech. And then restrain your thinking process, the thinking mind. Okay? So that is the second wholesome virtue according to Buddhism. So that is restraining our senses. And number 3, wholesome virtue is called Ajiva Parisuddhisila, which means right livelihood, living rightly, or living in accordance with not harming, and living rightfully. That's called a right livelihood. And here no, Emma, you can say. So here and Ajiva Parisuddhisila is talking about the living your life rightfully on the basis of that you have earned rightfully, not by cheating, not by stealing, not by corrupting, and you are living your life, but you are living with your own rightfully gained earnings. And meanwhile, here again, when we talk about the rightful earning, you are not selling the weapons, it's like a mass murder weapons, and then you are not selling any poisons. You are not human trafficking like that. Okay? If you are not doing this, so you are not selling the arsenals, you are not selling the poisons. You are and poison here, I'll say, also include the alcohol, but nowadays in a modern day, alcohol becoming very common. Sometimes, particularly in Scotland, when strictly speaking about the Buddhist principles, then they don't want to have a Buddhist temples anyway. They will not want to have it, or all the distilleries will come and destroy the temple. So that is the second. The third one is the human trafficking. So you are not selling the humans, whether in any forms. Okay, and that's the third one. And then the fourth one is any flesh selling. So that is like a killing beings and selling it for your own livelihood. So these are known as the wrong livelihood. So you are not earning by selling those and gaining earnings to live your life. But if you are living with that, then that means you are living rightly, which is not good. Okay. Emma don't drink, and Margaret also don't drink. That's bad for the Friday night. Okay. Anyway, that's very good that you don't drink all alcohols. Okay. So that is the third wholesome virtue, is the Ajiva Parisuddhisila, or the right livelihood, living in accordance with your own rightfully earnings, and that is the rightful as a right livelihood. And now the last one, the last one is called Pachaya Pachavekkhana. Okay, Pachaya Pachavekkhana Sila, or the wholesome, about the cause and effects. Okay, and this is only talking about the basic needs. And here it's very applicable for this modern day, that Buddha is encouraging us to fulfill our needs rather than our wants. And what are the basic needs of all the human beings? Number one, what are the basic needs, do you think? There are 4 things that human needs. Doesn't matter who they are, they need. The basic 4 needs. What are the 4 needs, do you think? And this is the 4th wholesome deeds, or wholesome virtue, that the Buddha was talking about. And these are the 4 types of virtues, wholesome virtues, that once we practice. And the Buddha, Venerable Buddha, was asking that what is the purpose of this practice of a wholesome virtue? Okay, food, shelter, clothes, and love. Clothes and love, okay. I think love is not the one, the need, basic needs. Okay, love, food, love, shelter, clothes. Oh, Yvonne and Margaret, you are copying one another. Okay, so there are 4 basic needs. One is missing there, and love is not the one. Okay? Love is more of your emotional relationship with one to another. But the basic need that every human beings should have it, and actually normally will have. Only a few people or some people will not have it, some of it, okay, but majority of it will have it, okay. So Anish, home, shelter is home, okay. So the 4 basic needs, water, okay, Emma, water comes under the food, and the last one is health. You got it, Yvonne, that's right. Medication, Anish, yes, right. So the basic needs are the food, shelter, what else? Food, shelter, clothes, and medicine, health, basic health. So these are the 4 basic needs that we should be practicing. And then if we are practicing in accordance with these simple basic needs, and then fulfilling our needs rather than what we want, then that settles our standard, and that settles our mind. And with that, basically our mind is clear, our mind is sharp and happy, pure. And then when we are practicing meditation, what happens is that much easier to contemplate. And that is the purpose of the practice of the wholesome virtue, that we all have to practice the sound virtue in order to gain a good concentration and a good meditation. And then once we have got fully understood this, then there is no problem. So that's why the purpose of a wholesome virtue is the development of satipatthana, the 4 establishment of a mindfulness. And then this satipatthana is the fundamental part of our well-being and happiness in this life and then hereafter. So we have to remember that a wholesome virtue doesn't mean only the rules that the Buddha had given us, but there are other 3 basic other rules which is related to our own senses and then own livelihood, and then how we need and how much we need, and that are also known as the wholesome virtue. Once we have fulfilled it, then we will be able to develop much easier in the practice of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So I end here for tonight's this talk, reflection, or maybe interaction, a discussion. Okay, thank you everyone for the interaction, and quite fun to have you all engaging in this learning. So may you all be well and happy. May the Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you. In a few moments' time, we're going to have evening chanting and guided meditation, and you're most welcome to join with us. Until then, good night and see you shortly. Thank you. Sadhu.